Imagine standing somewhere so old that the rocks beneath your feet were already ancient before the pyramids were built, before Rome rose and fell, before language was written down, before almost everything we call history. This place was. Welcome to Australia. Not the Australia of postcards, not the Australia of tourist brochures, the real Australia. The one that will make you feel, in the best possible way, completely, beautifully small. This continent is unlike anything else on Earth. It's a place where the desert meets the reef, where ancient rainforests grow older than memory, where animals exist that look like nature was improvising, and somehow got it exactly right. Before we dive in, quick question for you. What do you think is the oldest tropical rainforest on Earth? Most people guess the Amazon. Makes sense, right? It's huge, it's famous, it's practically synonymous with the word rainforest. But the answer might surprise you. And it's right here in Australia. Drop your guess in the comments. We'll come back to this later, and the answer is going to blow your mind. Here's a thought experiment. Take Europe. Now take out all the countries. Remove the borders. Keep the diversity. The mountains and the beaches. The ancient history and the modern cities. Now drop it all onto a single landmass surrounded by ocean. That's roughly what Australia feels like. It is simultaneously a country, a continent, and a concept. It stretches from tropical rainforests in the north, where prehistoric birds wander beneath canopies that have existed since the age of dinosaurs, to icy wilderness in the south, where winds howl in off Antarctica and penguins nest along rocky shores. Its western edge faces the vast Indian Ocean. Its eastern cities glow beside the Pacific. Between them, nearly 4,000 kilometers of desert, rock, wilderness, and silence. And yet, Australia is also one of the most urbanized countries in the world. Around 90% of its people live in cities, most of them hugging the coastline, as if the interior is too sacred, too raw, to be colonized by apartment blocks and shopping malls. That tension between the wild and the civilized, the ancient and the modern, is exactly what makes Australia magnetic. You can have brunch at a rooftop cafe in Melbourne, looking out over a city as cosmopolitan as any in the world. Then drive 3 hours and find yourself standing in a silence so complete you can hear your own heartbeat. Australia doesn't ask you to choose. It asks you to hold both things at once. Every great city has a first impression. Paris has the Eiffel Tower glowing at night. New York has that skyline rising from the water. Rome has the Colosseum, still standing like a stubborn old king. Sydney has something different. Sydney has theater. The moment you see the Opera House, those soaring white sails rising from the edge of the harbor, you understand that this city was built to be looked at, to be experienced, to leave a mark. But here's the thing about Sydney that surprises most people who visit for the first time. The postcard is real. It's actually that beautiful, and it just keeps going. Let me paint you a picture of a morning in Sydney. You wake up early, before the city fully stirs, and walk down to the harbor. The water is still. The Opera House stands in the pale light, glowing slightly golden. A ferry hums past, leaving a white trail on the surface. Seagulls circle, unhurried. This is Sydney at its most honest, grand, but never cold, bold, but never brutal. From the harbor, you can take a short bus ride east to Bondi Beach, possibly the most famous stretch of sand in the southern hemisphere. Now, Bondi can be crowded, it can be loud. On summer weekends, it buzzes with energy. Surfers, sunbathers, backpackers, local families claiming their patch of sand with military precision. But walk south along the coastal path, the Bondi to Coogee Walk, and everything changes. The path winds along cliff tops above the Tasman Sea. Waves crash below. Sandstone glows amber in the morning light. The city falls away. And for a few kilometers, it's just you, the ocean, and the particular kind of joy that comes from moving through a beautiful place. If you've ever met someone who just seems effortlessly happy, the kind of person who's always smiling but never tries too hard, always busy but never stressed, you've essentially met Brisbane. Queensland's capital is a city in its prime, confident without being arrogant, vibrant without being exhausting, and eternally, blissfully warm. Brisbane wraps itself around the Brisbane River in long, looping bends, and the city uses every inch of that waterfront to live. Cyclists, joggers, kayakers, and picnickers fill the riverside paths. Restaurants spill onto terraces. Bridges carry pedestrians from one leafy bank to another. At the South Bank Parklands, one of the most extraordinary urban spaces in Australia, you can do something that sounds utterly impossible. Swim at a beach in the middle of a city. Streets Beach is a fully constructed lagoon. White sand, clear water, tropical palms. Sitting right in the heart of Brisbane, within walking distance of art galleries, restaurants, and performance venues. Kids splash in the shallows. Families lay on the sand. And behind them, skyscrapers rise against a blue sky. It's the kind of thing that sounds absurd until you see it, and then seems like the most sensible idea anyone ever had. Creatively, Brisbane has grown up. The Gallery of Modern Art, affectionately called GOMA, is one of the largest modern art galleries in Australia. Its exhibitions draw international attention and regularly challenge, surprise, and delight. Around the corner, the Queensland Performing Arts Centre hosts everything from touring Broadway musicals to avant-garde local productions. But Brisbane's creativity isn't contained to formal institutions. Walk through Fortitude Valley and the streets themselves are the gallery. Murals cascade down the sides of buildings. Live music drifts from open doors. The laneways around Chinatown hum with energy. Restaurants, bars, pop-up markets. Conversations happening in 5 languages. Brisbane doesn't need to shout about how good it is. It just is. And somehow, that quiet confidence makes it even more appealing. There's a particular kind of traveler, the curious kind, the one who's done the obvious cities and wants something more real. And Adelaide was made for them. It's not flashy, it doesn't compete. It simply exists in a state of extraordinary, unhurried quality. And the more time you spend here, the more you understand why Adelaideans have a slightly smug smile whenever you ask them what it's like to live there. But Adelaide's great secret weapon lies just beyond the city limits. Within an hour in almost any direction, you're in wine country. The Barossa Valley is one of the most celebrated wine regions on Earth. Its Shiraz is legendary, deep, complex, grown in ancient vines, some of which are over a century old. Stone cellar doors offer tastings in settings of almost pastoral perfection. Rolling vines, old-growth gum trees, the sound of wind through leaves. McLaren Vale, south of the city, adds a coastal dimension. Vineyards that run almost to the cliff tops above Gulf St. Vincent, where sea breezes give the wines a crispness unique to this corner of the world. The beaches stretch along Adelaide's western edge in long, gentle golden arcs. Some places are beautiful, some places are spectacular, and then there are the rare ones. The handful of places on Earth so visually extraordinary that they don't feel real. Where you stand on the shore and think, no, this can't actually exist. Whitehaven Beach is one of those places. Located in the Whitsundays, a cluster of 74 islands off the coast of Queensland, Whitehaven stretches for 7 kilometers along the eastern edge of Whitsunday Island. It curves like a perfectly drawn crescent. White on one side, every shade of blue and green on the other. But what makes it genuinely unlike anything else on Earth is the sand. It's 98% pure silica. That single fact changes everything. Regular sand is a mix of minerals. It absorbs heat, turns hot underfoot on a summer day, packs together and stains your feet. Whitehaven sand does none of that. It's cool to the touch even under direct sun. It doesn't compact, it flows. It's so white it looks like it was poured there by a set designer who wanted the backdrop to look impossible. Walking on it barefoot at midday feels like walking on a cool cloud. At the northern end of the beach lies Hill Inlet. And this is where nature performs its most extraordinary trick. As the tides shift, the silica sand and the turquoise water swirl together in constantly changing patterns. From the Tongue Point lookout above, you see it as a living painting, blues and whites marbling into each other, shifting minute by minute. Never the same twice. Photographers come from around the world to capture it. What they discover is that no photograph fully does it justice. Some things need to be seen with your own eyes. Below the surface, the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park surrounds the beach with protected waters. Snorkeling here reveals sea turtles moving with unhurried grace, coral gardens in every color, schools of fish that part around you and reform as you pass. There are no hotels on the beach, no restaurants, no bars. You arrive by boat and you leave by boat. In between, there is only the sound of waves meeting perfect sand, the cry of a seabird overhead, and the singular, humbling experience of being somewhere that needs nothing added to it. Whitehaven Beach isn't just a beautiful place. It's proof that Earth, left to its own devices, can achieve something that looks very much like perfection. Here is a small but significant fact. Every morning, before any other place on the Australian mainland, the sun rises at Cape Byron. The first light touches this particular headland, this particular lighthouse, these particular cliffs, and then it spreads west across the continent, across 3,000 kilometers of desert and mountain and city, until finally the last corner of Western Australia wakes up. Byron Bay starts the day for an entire country. And somehow that feels exactly right. The Cape Byron walking track is one of the most beautiful short walks in Australia. You begin near the lighthouse at the top of the headland and follow the path along coastal cliffs, through patches of dense subtropical rainforest, down to secluded beaches and back up again. Below you, the Pacific crashes and foams. Dolphins surf the waves just offshore. In winter, humpback whales move north in their annual migration, their enormous shapes breaking the surface with casual magnificence. It takes about 3 hours. Most people wish it took longer. Down in town, Byron Bay operates on its own frequency. It is, to put it simply, a place that has figured out a different way of being. The pace is slow, not lazy, deliberate. Like everyone here has quietly decided that hurrying is overrated. Whitehaven Beach, tucked beneath the headland, is where surfing becomes something close to meditation. The waves here are long and rolling, the kind that give surfers extended rides at a gentler, more contemplative pace. In the early morning, before the crowds arrive, watching a single surfer work with a wave in total silence is one of the most peaceful things you can witness. In Byron Bay, time doesn't stop exactly. It just slows down to something more honest, where the most important thing you can do is walk barefoot to the water's edge, face east into the wind, and remember that the world is very old and very beautiful, and that you are, right now, exactly where you need to be. Remember that question from the beginning? Which is the world's oldest tropical rainforest? Here's your answer. You're looking at it. The Daintree Rainforest is over 135 million years old. Read that again. 135 million years? The Amazon, the most famous rainforest on Earth, is roughly 55 million years old. The Daintree is more than twice as old. It was ancient before the continents finished drifting into their current positions. It watched the dinosaurs evolve. It was there when the first flowers bloomed. It has been quietly, continuously alive since a time so remote that the mind cannot fully hold it. Walking through the Daintree is a full-body experience. The air is thick with moisture. It smells of earth and growth, the particular green richness of life composting and regenerating in an unbroken cycle. Towering fig trees rise to canopy heights, their roots spreading across the ground in complex patterns that look sculpted. Fan palms catch filtered light. Vines hang in curtains. Every sound has a source you can't see. Every leaf has a story you can't read. At Cape Tribulation, the Daintree performs its most dramatic gesture. The forest walks to the water's edge and stops. Rainforest and reef meet here in a collision of green and blue that exists nowhere else on Earth. Two UNESCO World Heritage Sites, touching. Stand on the beach at Cape Tribulation and look north. Behind you, 135 million years of rainforest. In front of you, the world's largest coral reef system. It's almost too much to take in. The Daintree doesn't ask for your admiration. It has existed for 135 million years without it. But if you come quietly and slowly and with enough humility to understand what you're standing inside, it will give you something that no other place on Earth can, the feeling of being genuinely, completely in the presence of deep time. Perth, the beautiful isolation. Perth sits on the western edge of Australia, facing the Indian Ocean, with its back to nearly 4,000 kilometers of continent. It is, by conventional geography, one of the most isolated major cities in the world. Its nearest large neighbor is Adelaide. Further away than London is from Moscow, and yet, somehow Perth doesn't feel isolated at all. It feels free. Kings Park is one of the largest inner-city parklands on Earth, and the people of Perth treat it with the reverence it deserves. In spring, the park erupts with wildflowers, over 3,000 species native to Western Australia, many of them found nowhere else on Earth. The banksia, the kangaroo paw, the spider orchid, a riotous, unlikely beauty covering every surface in color. From the park's elevated vantage points, the Swan River spreads below like polished steel. The city skyline rises on one side, neat and modern. On the other, the bush runs all the way to the edge of vision. It's the kind of view that makes you slow your breathing. Cottesloe Beach is where Perth comes to end its days well. In the late afternoon, when the Indian Ocean catches the light at just the right angle, the water turns a shade of blue that doesn't exist in paint. Families spread towels on the grass above the sand. Surfers drift in the gentle breaks. At sunset, the sky performs above the water. Oranges and pinks and deep purples reflected perfectly in the calm ocean. Off the southern coast of South Australia, a ferry ride from Cape Jervis, lies an island that feels like someone took the essence of wild Australia and placed it somewhere you could actually visit, Kangaroo Island. It has been called Australia's Galápagos. The comparison is both accurate and insufficient because Kangaroo Island has something the Galápagos doesn't quite possess in the same way. A quietness so complete, it feels intentional. This island is large enough to be diverse, but small enough to feel intimate. In Flinders Chase National Park at the island's western end, the landscape turns dramatic. Remarkable rocks. Enormous granite boulders sculpted by millions of years of wind and rain into shapes so strange they look like sculpture. Sit above the Southern Ocean on a platform of ancient rock. The wind here is constant and fierce, carrying salt and cold from the Antarctic. Admiral's Arch nearby is a massive rock tunnel carved by waves, hung with stalactites, and occupied by a colony of New Zealand fur seals.